Alrighty, welcome to another edition of the Inside View with Teddy Panos, with your host, Teddy Panos, coming to you live from the Inside Lowell studios here in historic, beautiful downtown Lowell. Another episode of featuring the Pod Squad tonight. We got lots to talk about, so without further ado, let me bring them on in. You see the crew here, now familiar by this point. I'm ready to let you guys kind of fly on your own, but none of you want to leave the nest. What's the matter with you?
It's not leaving the net. It's,
It's the work.
it's the papa bird.
It's the work.
We enjoy your company.
Not that difficult to press 1, 2, 3.
Who are we going to argue with?
And there's 5. The whiteboard that you've been clamoring for.
Oh, there's a 5 camera now?
That's there as well. Yeah, the whiteboard.
5 hole is the whiteboard?
The 5 hole is the whiteboard.
I like it.
But welcome once again to the Pod Squad. From left to right on your TV screens, Jack Mitchell, Mikaela Hondros-McCarthy, and Mike Bacigalupo, a.k.a. Batch. Welcome, gang.
How you doing?
Good to have you here.
Yeah.
Before we get too far, let me say a big thank you to our sponsors here at Inside Lowell, Spectacle Live, the Greater Lowell Chamber of Commerce, IBEW 2321. What's the old saying, Batch?
Digging holes and climbing poles.
Digging holes and climbing poles. Real Estate, Ray Booton, Lowell Lock and Key, Stellar Web Studios, who designed the InsideLowell.com website. The Mill City Festival Fund. The countdown is on, gang. Just, what are we now? From today that we're taping this, 12 days away?
Oh, from City Lights?
From the City of Lights
That's
Parade.
a good
But
day.
it's only
That's
12
exciting.
days?
Yeah, so today is the 15th. It's, so actually the 26th. We're actually on less than 11 days.
You don't go to
No.
that very often, do you?
I missed it, but I'm there this year.
This is a fun
for sure.
time.
You have to check
Is it
it
the
out.
Friday after Thanksgiving?
Saturday.
Saturday.
Saturday evening.
Get a day of rest and then you go out.
Yeah,
Hit it
that's right.
strong.
Get
Oh,
your
I did.
recovery.
I did.
I'll be emceeing once again, and this year they've made the mistake of putting Madame President and fellow insider Danielle McFadden on the podium with me.
Oh, heck
Oh, nice.
yeah.
I've driven
Definitely
away
there.
3 or 4 co-MCs.
I don't. Do you
One
know,
of them
Oh,
all
I
the way
love
to, one of them
that.
all the way to Colorado. Elizabeth Kegley from the Merrimack Repertory.
I never make it up there. I never make it up to see it flip the lights. 'Cause
Yeah, you sit at the bars where the old court is and the street.
Well,
walk
you know,
and the
it's cold.
Athenian
It's
after
cold.
that. It
it's not
is
that
cold.
cold.
I don't like
It's not that cold.
It is cold out there, but come on down. Hopefully we'll get some great weather this year. City of Lights Parade, Saturday, November 26th, 2 days after Thanksgiving. And we here at Inside Lowell are going to be streaming it live right from the reviewing stand where
you
Danielle
are?
and I will be hosting it as well. Yeah, we've
Oh,
got Joe
boy.
Murray coming on in to handle the technicalities, buddy.
This is very
That's amazing.
We're big time here at Inside Lowell. Big time.
Are you going to be there to cover in case? I remember what happened the last time there was a City Lights parade. One of the floats got stuck on the.
Last year, yeah.
What were you
the
calling it
Central Street
earlier?
Bridge.
What do you call that bridge?
cold. Oh, the little... I can say it right.
You can say it, the little bitch
the little
bridge.
bit-
The little bitch bridge,
Yeah.
yeah. The Central Street Bridge.
And then, so it couldn't take the corner. And I don't know if this really happens, but somebody told me that Eric Kitche went over and measured it and moved the barriers by himself to get out of the way. I don't know if that's true or not.
Nothing like taking matters into your own hands.
I think you're kidding about that one, Batch. I think.
Oh, and then there was the other time when that lady drove down the street the wrong way.
That was a couple of years
So
before.
then they put more barriers. This is a great parade. You got to come down.
Yeah, now it's the safest place. on the
Nothing will
planet.
happen. I
You
swear.
never know.
Never does. Thank you as well to Phil Tebow Architect, Unitas Community Center, the Merrimack Valley Wi-Fi Pros, and of course our newest sponsors, the Stones Hospitality Group and Christopher's Towing. If you would like to get on the inside track and become a sponsor of Inside Lowell, send an email to sales@insidelowell.com or email me directly, Teddy Panos @insidelowell.com. Actually, this is an opportunity. There's our camera there. Sales@insidelowell.com. I mean, we need a sponsor for that whiteboard.
And
Wait,
look at that beautiful handwriting up there. Look at that.
That
That's
is-
nice.
Yeah, actually.
Penmanship.
So Danielle was dumping on my penmanship.
You learned that at
The
the
other
Greek
day.
school, I think. I
Yeah,
think you learned.
That's
at
not
Greek
for a
school.
guy.
That's actually
That's very
All right.
sexist to say, but for a guy, that's good handwriting, is it not?
I can read
Look at
it.
that.
I can read it. That's
Yeah.
how I.
I
That's how
feel like
know.
it leans to the right.
It's very. That's a good one.
Very good.
Thank you.
So sales at InsideLowell.com or send it to Teddy Panos at InsideLowell.com and we'll have you be one of our sponsors. So we got lots to talk about tonight with the Pod Squad. Let's get right down to it. First of all, I'm going to give you a chance, the three of you, to take your shots at me. The red wave, as I described it in my Mill City Musings column, became a purple bruise on the Republicans' ass.
I can't. I thought it was going to be a red wave. I was pleasantly surprised that things went the way they did.
Pleasantly?
Yeah, I mean, Republicans are kind of annoying since I want some Charlie Baker Republicans, not more of these Trump weirdos. No offense, but like it's, I wasn't that disappointed. So and I like it close. Close is good,
Mikaela, you were happy.
I'm not gonna gloat. I think.
Go ahead. That's what this is all about. I would be if it went the other way.
I just am happy that, the abortion stuff, I think, played a big role. I think a lot of Republicans aren't like super, pro. Like there's a middle ground here, and I think that's where we got. And I think that Biden, say what you will, say what you want about him, I think his policies have made a difference in Americans' lives, and I think we're kind of seeing.
Yeah, look at the price of groceries.
Okay, well. See, now you're going to bring the gloating out of me. No, I'm not.
By the way, I hope you didn't
just
spend too much time filling out that student loan forgiveness application. Because, gee, what a shock that went out the window.
I'm feeling better about paying mine off years ago. By the way, I have a new slogan for Herschel Walker.
Do you really?
Yes, because it's going to be a runoff, if I'm not mistaken. So it's, I think you can just this might help him out. Pro life on the podium, pro choice in the bedroom.
That might describe an awful lot of elected officials. Come on, Jack. You got a chance to gloat here.
A politician in the streets.
I've been saying for a long time that Republicans are awful. I mean, the economy is definitely awful, and there's aspects to it that hurt people, and that people want to. What's that Clinton thing? It's the economy, stupid, right? But I think what happened, and you can argue the point of it, but the insurrection, there's people are catching up with it's that Trump and the Trump crew cult, if you want, they've gone too far, and so there was a rejection of that.
I think Trump fatigue is a good way to describe it. I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of tired of it. Just the constant, the bickering, and even if he were to be the nominee, it's going to be the same thing. Even if he were to win the presidency, it's not like we get 4 years of peace. So I'm 100% Team DeSantis at this point. He was the big winner for the Republicans on election night. The state of Florida stayed red, turned even more red, and DeSantis is now. I saw just a couple of days ago there were 3 polls released from the first 3 states: Iowa, the caucuses, New Hampshire. And then Vegas, which is the third, Nevada, which is the third state, and DeSantis leads Trump in a hypothetical head-to-head matchup in all 3 of them. Now, long way to go. A lot can happen. Trump has only just begun to be a bleep hole and started attacking DeSantis.
Did he announce tonight?
Today was it supposed to be?
It should be coming tonight, as a matter of fact.
Was it 8 p.m.?
Yeah, as we are recording this, it's very likely going to happen. But, to kind of give you an indication of where I think people are with this, Matt Gaetz, one of the original Trumpers, his flight had issues, and he was unable to make it out to the Trump event tonight where he's expected to announce it. A cynic might say there's another guy that's reading the tea leaves and saying, you know what, we need to start distancing. It's time to close that chapter. But it was, if you think it was good, it was good. He enacted some change, but you need a new leader now at the top of it.
Well, I think that you really got to pay attention in Nevada because nobody has more poll workers than Nevada.
I love it. You know
can't
what?
help
I
himself.
love it though. I love you. Really do bring such a fresh perspective. I love it, and I got that. I would like to say, for the record, I got that one. Like
There you go,
I
yeah.
got it right away.
Nobody has more poll workers than Nevada, except for maybe IBEW 23.
There we go.
Our sponsor, Lee Gitcher and his friends.
The Trump thing is, so first DeSantis. Some of the, as far as I know, DeSantis didn't win handily when he won the first time.
By
Okay.
0.3 percentage points.
And it was because of Trump's support. One could argue. He
He
stopped
did.
counting he stopped them from counting the votes too, apparently.
Oh, I know. That was, yeah, that's a whole different thing.
Which you could be indicted.
But he won handily. He won handily.
Yes.
And I know there are people that are looking at the Latino vote, Hispanic vote in Florida, because when you look at the numbers, there are districts that, Hillary Clinton had done well in, or the Dems usually do pretty well in, are shifting towards DeSantis. So I don't know what that means for a transition to a presidential thing. Like the primary will take care of itself.
Have you seen numbers on that trend nationwide? Because the polling leading up to it, and why so many people thought there was going to be a red wave as opposed to the trickle or purple bruise, as I'm calling it, was because Hispanics were starting to shift, not a big majority, but potentially 50-50 between Republicans and Democrats. In Florida, that was certainly true. Are Hispanics in Florida, do they think differently than Hispanics in Nevada, in Arizona?
And you say all Hispanics think the same?
Aren't they supposed to?
No, and so
That's how politicians.
I know,
think
it's
of
like-
all these years, right?
people could be lazy that way and aggregate people like that, but in Florida it's predominantly Cuban, right? And the Cubans have their sort of very unique history with Castro and all of that, right? So that's why I didn't think like who's that guy from Texas, the senator, Ted Cruz. He doesn't necessarily translate to Florida, right? The other thing is going to be interesting is Trump himself. We watched as Trump brought into his cabinet the best, right? And then, like Shark's teeth, the one they came out, right? And then they were all the ones that left became losers, right? So Trump's got a lot of instincts on how to turn on the people that were his best people, right? And
or his
so
supporters.
he has
Right?
no compunction whatsoever that how it reflects on him that he trusted those people and he was allied to them, and then he'll pivot 180 degrees. Now they're garbage. So I don't know how that pans out for him.
So that's the $1 million question. If you're
Right.
the Republican Party nationally, how does Trump handle if he loses to DeSantis? In
Will-
a hypothetical,
Will he go quietly into the
will
night?
he do an endorsement? Will he be a big boy, put on his big boy pants
yeah.
like Hillary Clinton did for Barack Obama in
I don't think so.
2008, and like everybody else did for Hillary in 2016, and they all did for Joe Biden? That's the tradition. Will Trump fail to endorse? Will he encourage his supporters to stay home? Will he do the apocalyptic move?
I can't
Will he
wait.
mount a third party?
Is he going to Ross Perot the election?
Is he?
Well, I
is
can't
he
wait.
going to? Yeah, that's exactly. Jack,
I think
Jack's
the
got his
indication-
rosary beads
Yeah.
ready.
Well, the indication, I can't wait to see what he says about Pence. So Pence has turned on him.
Pence did
Has
an interview
Trump-
last night. Yeah,
Has Trump said anything about that yet? I don't.
the loser comment is probably coming tonight.
But
at the Trump rally.
I think that will be the telling. I think that will be the tell of how he reacts to.
Pence is kind of a
His-
loser. He's not wrong.
But
Guy can't even go in a room with
That's one of the things Trump is right about.
Well, no, I mean, he's just the guy
can't
can't even be in a
wait to see
room
it.
with a woman alone. He's
it
just a
feels
weirdo.
like a wrestling match. It feels like a wrestling ring. Like it feels. That's the vibe that it feels like.
Well-
It's just like, who's he gonna name? Who's he gonna? Like it's like a show. Like
When you
popcorn. I'm ready for the popcorn.
I'm sorry. When you mentioned the wrestling ring, it makes me think that two of my predictions that I made probably like years ago is that The Rock will be president someday, and Dave Nangle will be city manager someday. Those are my two main things that you laugh now.
Jack doesn't know whether to laugh or be concerned.
I'm telling you, it's going to
What do
happen.
you have to do with wrestling?
Nothing, but it's outrageous. Like there's a point where like all these things come around. Like what you think will never happen is going to happen, and The Rock will be president.
All right, so you said Dave Nangle. Well, good opportunity to transition to local politics. Not Dave Nangle. Let's leave him out of it. But let's talk about locally. An even worse night for the Republicans in Massachusetts
There's no
than they
Republican.
had nationwide. The five of them that can fit in a Volkswagen buggy. But I just, coming in here today, I was getting a ride from my wife, so I did not drive, so I was reading in the car. But there were reports that these two state house races in Massachusetts that the Republicans escaped with a lead on an election night have now had ballots, late arriving ballots, that have now put it into single digits in one case.
Oh, I didn't know this.
I didn't know this.
But so, how much longer are we going to keep count of like? Where are these ballots coming from?
People mail them.
Isn't the law in the Secretary of State's office that if they haven't arrived,
They're
the
the
postmarked by
postmark.
election night, arrived by Saturday?
Yeah, maybe the stamp. fell off.
I'm looking. It's Tuesday as we're recording. Like, how much longer are you going to know what the vote total is, and then wait till somebody surpasses the vote total? I mean,
Well, the real.
Making a difference in the results?
it could be in these
Do you know
two
what?
races.
Where are they? Do you know what?
One of them is first. It says First Middlesex District. Jack, you're better with the maps than I am. So it's not that far away. It's in Middlesex County. So
Right.
we know
Oh, okay.
that much.
I was
so
gonna say,
it can't
so
be that
it's-
far away from us.
Because if it's west of Worcester, who cares, right? Doesn't really matter.
Jack is trying not to lose his day gig.
I mean,
it's falling
Oh, sorry.
here inside the
Sorry,
gig.
sorry.
First Middlesex District.
I have no idea. I thought there was a cutoff. I thought if it wasn't there by, it's been a week. Well, that brings up another question. Why does the mail suck so much lately? You can't. It's so unreliable.
Okay, so the postmark has to be there. It's not
By November 8th.
the delivery, right? But then there's a timeline for municipalities to report to
Correct.
the Secretary of State.
Which
it's the
was
middle.
Saturday, I'm told.
It's the middle.
All right.
Middle of Middlesex.
But that doesn't
It's Worcester.
necessarily.
It's Worcester and-
It'd be
Okay.
interesting because, in just so some of the brief conversations that I've had with the elections office is that when things get, weird, judges come into play. So I think, whatever the standing rules are applied. But if there are recounts, then, the judge would have to adjudicate that. And so if the judge allows ballots that have been, because they don't chuck them out like, oh, let's put them in the dumpster. They're going to sequester them. But I don't know how, like, a judge would react to them. I personally, like, not that I'm a judge, but I'd be like, you can't count them. Like, if they didn't meet the cutoff, like, there's
That's
got to
it.
be a reason
That's
for
it.
it to have a cutoff.
Right.
Right.
I hope they don't put them in a basement of a Lowell school.
We're gonna,
Into the rainstorm.
we're gonna get there before
That's
we're
gonna
done
happen.
here. Okay, we're already 17 minutes in.
7,000 ballots destroyed by flood. Then flash frozen.
I wrote my Sunday night Mill City musings, and I opined that the Republican Party is just a complete disaster in Massachusetts, and perhaps even worse here in Lowell and in the greater Lowell area. It's just a complete mess, and I think the telltale sign for me was that while those ballot initiatives were somewhat close,
Yeah, they were
one of them, the question one, with the millionaire's tax was 5247. The driver's licenses one was 5446. Not razor thin, but
Very close.
pretty close. A lot closer than any Republican candidates got. Yet here in Lowell, those numbers were 59-41.
Don't look at me. I don't know.
I wrote this in my column and I
weeks
forgot
until I
about
get
it.
into the data. I just let it because I don't want to
In
bother.
favor?
Yeah, in favor of them. So Lowell
I'm
turned
still
out far
surprised-
more towards the Democratic, the left thought process, ideology in those ballot initiatives than the rest of the state.
I'm still surprised at how close Lowell was. I guess I would have.
59-41
I feel like that's
on question
still,
one.
Yeah, I feel like that. I feel like that's still pretty close. Like 65-35, I would have been like, okay, that makes sense.
Besides low votes, was anybody really advocating about either question? I mean,
Oh God, yeah, there was a ton of advertising money spent in both directions. But so here's the shock. So I'm saying the Republican Party is dead in great Lowell. They have to it's going to take decades, generations maybe to rebuild it into a viable, relevant political party. You think that's a bad thing, Jack, don't you?
I want to have a loyal opposition because as liberal or whatever it is, wherever I fall on the spectrum, it's like I don't believe in a lot of gun control, but I definitely think it's a woman's right to choose, right? So I don't know how that identifies, but I think we need to have a Republican Party. I like the ideas sometimes. I don't necessarily. I just think there has to be a counterbalance to any sort of left idea, and the people have to be able to just try to work through that. And so
I agree with that.
I don't want the Republican Party to collapse. I just
Monopoly
don't want it to be
breeds abuse, potential corruption, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean it's you like to go down that. I mean I work in government. I don't see it. Like I see people trying to do a good job. Have I heard the anecdote here and there? A lot of the stories I hear are from years ago, right? Do I hear a current story now and then?
Yeah.
Sure, but generally speaking, I think like 97% of the people that are in service are just trying to do a good job and provide service to the Commonwealth.
So
I-
3% that ruins it for everybody.
I think the state always runs better when you've got in my experience, it's been when you've got a Republican governor and then the Democrats run everything else. It seems like that balance makes things work better. I think it's good to have a strong opposition. I'd love to see the Republican Party become something other than a laughingstock, but they can't get out of their own way.
But how do they do it? I wrote some obvious suggestions. They've got to unite. They got to stop this fighting. They got to find a way to make peace. The Baker Republicans with the Trump or Tea Party
Well, there's
Republicans.
like 2 Republican parties
Right.
now, right?
They've got to make peace. They need to start doing some groundwork. But that's the hard part, right?
What I was happy with this election was that the very far right, like the election deniers, the pro-life, that ideology got rejected more or less. So as a Democrat or as an independent or a Democrat, you don't have to. Your only choice on the other side isn't just like your default Democrat. Even if I don't agree with what they're I need to swing the other way to kind of correct this far right ideology. So what I was happy about was that that more or less got rejected. I don't know what they're. I mean, you have voted Democrat before.
I go back and forth.
Yeah.
Mostly, I agree with kind of the conservative centrist, the Charlie Baker type.
Sure.
Is what I fashioned myself as, except for the Trump thing. But Trump, I don't see Trump as a Republican. I see Trump as a destructive force, shaking up a government that needs to be destroyed. I think our government needs to completely.
That's your God. I've heard you describe him as leader.
God Emperor. Oh,
God Emperor. That's
because
right.
Because he had the balls. I can say that on a podcast. He had the balls to take on the Republican establishment. So that's a good thing. I like people who take on the establishment, even when I disagree. That's why I like Congresswoman Cortez.
Totally.
She's not afraid to take on her own party's establishment,
But
which every now and then needs it.
Now you're saying something different.
Well, Trump's time has come and gone. He's proven he can't govern. Mm-hmm. He can highlight the problems. He can even have great policy issues. He doesn't know how to govern because he can't. Ultimately, his personality failings. The fact that he was dumping on Ron DeSantis the night DeSantis had a tremendous victory that Republicans and Trump, because Trump was a DeSantis guy originally.
Yeah.
They should have been celebrating that. They should be celebrating what happened to Florida, that it's basically become a red state. And instead, Donald Trump's first instinct was to start calling him Ron DeSanctimonious, and then insinuating
that was pretty good, though,
that he's got blackmail information about him and his marriage. And I'm like, this is why people are sick of it. If I'm getting sick of it, I can only imagine what the rest of America's doing.
It's typical Trump, though, because, DeSantis did prod him a little bit, like some of the language in his speech. He expanded himself out. It was pretty innocuous language, right? that anybody that was even considering running for president would sort of put in there. It wasn't antagonistic, didn't stick him in the eye,
Well, except if you're a paranoid egomaniac.
which I'm going to have a hard time with you doing this. I just want to be like, have I been talking to you for like the last 6 years? Like, this is a different guy. But I understand. You gotta recalibrate.
Well, he had an opportunity and he blew it. He could have been the leader of that party. He became president against all odds. He became president. He could have gone in such a better direction, and then instead he kind of gave in to his worst instincts, more so since he left the White House than even when he was there. So anyway,
But the Massachusetts GOP, I mean, we talked about a little bit. I don't see the establishment, the Baker types. They're not looking to take over Beacon. Well, I mean, I'm sure they would prefer to do that, but they realize the probability is they're going to grab the governor's office, right? But they can try to influence what goes on in the legislature, but the fact that they're never going to have a Speaker of the House that's a Republican, right?
Yeah.
not in our lifetimes.
So, they're being smart. And I find that the establishment Republicans play footsie with the Democratic Party. And so they're going to try to maintain an amicable relationship with the people that have the power, that control the budget, right? If it's bring home the bacon politics, it's Democrats. The people that are kind of like you that want to burn it all down, they have no interest in playing nice, right? Like that's not their intention. Their intention is to shift things in a major way. And you don't reward that kind of behavior. So I don't know. They have the votes. And I think they'll always vote, regardless. I think they're going to vote for Charlie Baker Republicans because they have nowhere else to go. You've convinced them that the Democrats are Marxists and trying to destroy the country, right?
But as long as you're not shifting something in a major way, you're fine.
I don't think government, we've talked about this. Government is not it's a huge boat, right? Sure, can you throw some of the deck chairs overboard, right? But like you can't pull the rudder off. But one of the things that I think, and I'm not trying to sing Putin's praises or even Xi, right, from China, but they watch America and see how we kind of pendulum swing. Mm-hmm. So it might look when you have so much influence on a global scale that having some continuity, because Putin has survived, not to put it in like life death terms, but he'll look at a president and just be like, I'll be here after you're gone, right? And which is why I even sort of said, and you scoffed it off, that would Trump give up the White House, right? But I think he understands as well that like it might be good to have we would love a manager, this particular manager, sure, right? But if I could get a manager to stick around for 10 years, I think we would be better off as a city to have some continuity.
Then you have long-term goals.
Right.
Yeah, and long-term interest.
10 years is a long time.
It is a long time, but we don't have anybody wait.
$300,000.
We don't have anybody waiting their turn in the state legislature. The delegation is kind of
one. He's coming.
Anyway, so
the redo.
Huh?
The redo.
No, it's Mr. Nangle.
I have a prediction
Rehab the
for
image,
Trump.
and it's coming.
I have a prediction for Trump. I think what he's going to do is say the old, I don't want the presidency anyway. The president doesn't make that much of it. I'm going to control things from the behind the scenes. His daughter just got married to Boulos, right? The heir. He is like his heir to like a bunch of like Nigerian.
Greek, by the way?
No, he's Lebanese. I thought we could claim him, but
we could
we
get into
want to claim him. Michael Boulos. He's half Lebanese, half American.
You sure he's not Greek?
Boulos sounds like
sure
a Greek.
He's not Greek.
I question that myself, but it says the Google says American Lebanese.
All right.
But he is heir to like a bunch of Nigerian companies or whatever. So I think Trump is going to say, I'm going to have more influence outside of politics. I didn't want it anyway. It's not my, I think that's what he's going to do.
Again, from your lips to God's ears, he had the perfect opportunity to do that. He could have run for Congress from Florida gotten elected, made himself Speaker of the House, and kind of said, all right, I'm going to be the kingmaker from here, and then get behind DeSantis.
But he thought he was going to be
His
president.
ego doesn't allow him to do that. That's why he can't. That's
Well,
why
now he's on the down and outs. So now he has nowhere else. Like he doesn't have that.
that's when he
option.
fights harder. That's when he fights harder.
All right. Well, I'm taking the other side of this.
All right. I hope you are correct.
It's 7:59. We'll see, right? Like
I hope you are correct. So, turning from this election, did we learn anything in 2022 that we can take into the 2023 Lowell City Council and school committee elections?
Well, there is one thing about the state election, though, that I'm pretty psyched about, and it's Diana Zazaglio. I think it's kind of an underrated thing that happened, and I have
as auditors.
yeah, because she's gonna audit some stuff, man. She's just not gonna sit back and do nothing.
So I spoke to her a couple of days after the election, and I said, now that you got in, are you gonna walk back on your promise to first thing audit the state legislature? She said, no, I'm going after them.
I love
Yeah.
that.
I am going to, not going after them. I don't want to put words in her mouth. She said, I'm going to audit them. That's what I'm going to do. And she will actually come in here and do a podcast with us at some point and talk about what she wants to do as auditor. But that's going to be one of her very first moves. Going to probably be a legal challenge. Nobody knows
How do you
if
audit
it can be
the
done or
legis-
not.
What do you audit?
That's a good question.
How they're using
How they
their
use money.
funds?
Well, she's big on the NDA, non-disclosure agreements, and how those taxpayer funds are
I
used
love
to
that.
cover
Yeah.
up, issues. So, she says she's going to do it.
See, and I think she's
Follow
got.
the money, as you say.
Follow
Who's
the
better
money.
at following money than auditors?
I mean, she's been in so many different areas of government over the years, right? She's seen, like, from being a legislative aide all the way up, elected official, the whole thing. Like, she knows how this stuff works, and I think she knows what's good and what's wrong. I think she wants to. I think she's a real reformer. Like, can't remember the last time I called somebody a reformer. I have a feeling she's going to be a reformer.
She likes to take on the establishment.
Yeah.
Which is why I like her.
Yeah.
I support her.
Yeah.
So, what did we learn? Anything about 2023 from this election?
In terms of the local candidates,
Yeah.
I mean,
Did anybody who has Republican leanings in Lowell politics or might be suspected of being a Republican, should they disavow any thoughts of running for city council or school committee ever again?
no.
No?
No, they
I don't
they
even
tried
know.
to stick that on the councilors that attended the Trump rally at Lowell at Songus Arena, right? I mean, it excites the liberals, right, to rank on individuals, but those people can be very popular, right? If you have a strong constituent services game, then it's
So you think there's hope for a Joe Mendonça, a Republican who kind of was not a crazy right winger? You think that people like that could still get elected to Lowell City Council and school committee? Because ultimately, if the Republican Party is going to grow, they've got to get people into those positions. They have to get Republicans to just to start getting a grasp on the issues, to learn how to speak in public, to be able to, have a good idea on an issue, to actually be right on an issue, or have a good number of people who think you're right on the issue. And then I told you guys to turn your ringers off.
And you did.
And the radio amateur over
I
here
just love it's the thing from the horror movie. when
kept
it's
the
your-
ringer on. But,
that's like a serial killer.
Yeah, it's his
The
wife.
Exorcist.
Yeah.
It's a theme to The Exorcist.
Yeah.
But they've got to
Say
get
George
people
Michael.
elected. So they need to do this.
I understand the farm team side of things that you're talking about, but the local elections are nonpartisan. So you can't really brand yourself as a Republican or a Democrat too hard. I mean, we see and we see some of these things that come into city council chambers, or maybe even in the school committee with the what was
Bob
it?
Hoey.
No, that was what's the
COVID
thing?
stuff?
The
Or the
public health
indoctrination?
crisis, racism, a public health crisis.
Yeah.
So that went through the school committee long before it sort of negotiated its way through, right?
Yeah.
But I think there's a general hesitancy to sort of bring outside Lowell issues and use the the chamber as a stage for a broader conversation.
No, I think
Is there? Because we're seeing a lot more of that. It seems that there, and this is, you were part of that whole Left and Lowell movement. It seems that the 2020 version of Left and Lowell wants to make everything hyper partisan.
It's
They
both sides.
want to identify people as Democrats or Republicans, thinking that is a winning strategy even in council and school committee.
I think the only thing they're more resistant to than politics is maintenance plans, at least at the school committee.
Was that your idea of a segue to the next topic?
No. Just getting my shot in.
All right. Well, the city council's been pretty tame since the whole hubbub of having like 3 meetings worth of agenda items, blown through real quickly and put off. Tonight's meeting, not much. The city council's meeting as we speak, not much there in terms of agenda items. So there is one I'm watching. I'm gonna.
Which is
look to see the
interesting because
recap.
usually it's like chock full of
Is
agenda
that
items.
because Tip is up there by himself?
Can I say one thing about what we were just talking about, not to like re-segue, but like I thought, and not to rag on Carla Miller, but she was, I think, one of like a lot of Republican candidates that just had their like Fox News talking points and would just go down.
You don't think those were her own ideas?
No, I don't. I think that, I think that that's who they were trying to, and it wasn't authentic. Like it didn't hit home. Like it
I think
shows when it's not.
Actually, I will tell you, she's very authentic. She believes the stuff that she says, and I actually.
Well, no,
a
because
lot
I
of
asked her
stuff
for
she
clarification. We were
says-
on the radio, and I
There are
asked her for
people that
clarification.
think the Earth is flat.
I asked her for
Like-
clarification on something. No, this is not just her. This is not just her specifically, but like you can tell when someone's talking at you just to like hit the points. Like, yep, I'm gonna get this person. Yep, I'm gonna get this person.
Well,
Yep, I'm gonna
I
get
saw
this
the
person.
board operator mouthing along to her answer.
I've said this privately, but I haven't said it publicly. For whatever, my ethos didn't want to like rag on her too hard. But my
I appreciate
name
that.
for her was Culture War Kala.
Yeah, well,
All right.
and it wasn't just her.
Pretty good.
There were some other candidates that
yeah.
were very culture war-ish. You could just
and
tell.
I think this goes back to your larger point about where does the party need to go? Do they want to reinforce that culture war attitude?
But see, this is the point I was making, in that they need to get experience in public speaking and addressing issues, because
Oz had all the experience with public speaking, and he was inauthentic.
Speaking politically is a different animal. There are ways to say an issue. So it's parental rights, what Jack terms culture wars. If a skilled speaker, somebody who's experienced in it and has a good grasp on the issues, can turn it into parental rights. It worked in it worked in Florida. It works in Ohio. In Massachusetts, you got to be different. And the abortion issue, again, there's a good segment of America that doesn't want abortion, period. Not in Massachusetts. It's a losing cause in Massachusetts. So as I sat here and moderated a debate between Carla Miller and Rodney Elliott, I thought I knew what Carla Miller wanted to say, because she had said it in conversations off air with me. And yet when that moment came, she wasn't able to get it out in a way that could potentially soften her stance, which is tough to pull off in Massachusetts anyway. You saw it with Rodney Elliott, who, I mean, I was listening to positions from Rodney Elliott, and I'm like, wait, is this Rodney Elliott? Like, but he knew he was, and I saw that in the primary. He was running in a Democratic primary. Some of the, the fiscal watchdog thing that we saw in the city council gave way to, I mean, when he's touting a teachers union endorsement, I'm like, wait a minute, did you ever think you'd live to see that day? And yet experienced politicians, which Rodney Elliott was, they know they can read the lay of the land, they can adopt positions, and then they can put their positions out there in a way that is relatable to their base and the people who are going to vote for them. And that's what I meant.
You mean flip-flop?
That's what it is. It's exactly what.
That's exactly what it is.
That's it. I think Republicans need to find people out there that mesh with their views that they want to have as a party that are actually like authentically who they are. They
Correct.
won't, you know.
But they have to know how to say it as well. You have to know what to avoid.
If you stand for what you'll know what you're going to say. If you actually stand for something, it will come across.
Mass communication kind of washes a lot of things away, and I think you in part you've done your part to take some blame in this. We simplify things for low information folks, right?
Right, look at me.
So, well, I just out of politeness. So, like,
include you in the conversation.
you want to hype stuff up, right? Like, so, like, there's a hype to simplify it and be, that red meat politics. Okay. Now, I'm going to vote pro-choice every day, but the folks that want to say they don't want to say I'm pro-choice and delve into what does that mean. All right. They want to say I'm pro-abortion because it creates a stark chasm between one side or the other. Me personally, if I had a child that came to me with a pregnancy, I'm advocating life. Okay. I'm advocating life. If there's if it's just a question of finances and stuff of raising a child, right? Mm-hmm. I'm going to advocate life. If there's a issue with health where the baby's going to be born with some sort of I'm going to advocate that my child makes her own decision on that, right? But like there's all these nuances. The thing I think that really gets lost if there's culture war stuff is what I choose might not fit for any of you, right? And so I don't want choice means to me that I let your family make consider your own options.
Except when it came to masks and vaccines, right?
See, that's not,
Suddenly,
Your turn.
all of a sudden, the pro-choice people.
Look, okay.
No, but I want to say that's very well. What you just said was very well said.
My body, my choice, except when I want to work as a nurse in a hospital or as an airline pilot.
To cheapen what he just said with this bullshit.
Come on, that was a good line. That was a good line.
That's enraging.
Well, the thing is I can't remember Teddy being outside the storefront saying, I want to go in with no shoes and no shirts. You took all sorts of public health parameters on your liberties. Yeah. You just followed Trump like a ring in your nose. We're going to resist the mask.
So public health policy about what breeds disease and contamination, bare feet and stuff, and sweat coming off somebody's chest, that's a proven science. As we have found out, everything that you guys did with the COVID stuff turned out to be pretty wrong.
Why?
And you're acknowledging it now.
For God's sake, really, can we talk about abortion separate from masks? That is a completely, Alex.
My body, my
false
choice.
Equivalency.
Why is it a false equivalence?
Okay, but
why should a woman in her childbearing years be forced to get a shot that she's wondering what is the long-term effect? It's the same thing. We're talking about.
Is that the same thing as an abortion?
How come that's not
forcing someone to have a baby?
How come that's not a reproductive rights issue? When I refuse to get a shot,
they are.
I'm not terminating a potential baby's potential life, am I?
Take it as a reproductive rights issue, but it's not you cannot in the same breath say, well, your freedom is my freedom. It's not the same. You can't, enough.
So to take it back to the abortion issue, Jack, a staunch pro-choice guy, staunch Democrat, couched what you said, because you're a skilled orator, I'm going to give you that credit. You couched it in a way where you left somebody who has completely different views feel like, okay, they're not the devil because they happen to have a different view.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So a skilled orator on the Republican side, somebody who's more experienced in politics, knows how the game works, would be able to advocate for pro-life, making it about life, making it about the
Sure.
baby, whatever, while also acknowledging that you can't tell a 14-year-old who got raped by a grandfather, uncle, or whatever, that they have to carry that baby to full term. And what I see in some of these Republicans here in the area is they're so inexperienced that they'll actually blurt out, like, yeah, never have an abortion, never allow an abortion,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
versus like saying, okay, listen, I believe in life, but I also want to acknowledge that there are cases if the mother's life is in jeopardy, by all means, if the girl got raped, by all means. Like, you can't, in the case of rape and incest, say, I'm going to force you to carry that baby to the end of term. That's where Republicans lose
They
it.
lose people.
And it's the skilled ones know how to navigate around that. Ron DeSantis knows how to navigate around that.
Well, yeah.
Even Donald Trump knew how to navigate around that.
And
to be honest with
younger Republicans, for the most part, you have the barstool Republicans, right? Like younger Republicans that are coming up and being more of the voter base as years go on. Most of them are pro-choice.
But I think you can see that, when you've got extreme views, it doesn't help. And I think it's better when people can say, like, well, in the case of this, and that, it's okay. And just like people that want abortion up to kindergarten, it's probably not a good thing it's going to turn some people off.
You
like,
can get away with it in Massachusetts.
Well, not really. But like, I think what Jack's saying is like, what I like what he's saying is when you say that, you say you're pro-choice, but that doesn't mean you're pro-choice all the time. There are situations where.
No, pro-choice is. I feel like
I'm sorry,
it really is
I'm
Other
that.
people's choice.
Like
Up to a
right,
point.
bro. For
No?
my family, what our
Right, your
choices
personal
right?
things aren't always.
And, right, but the other thing is like just even I might offer to one of my children like, hey, we'll assume the cost of the baby, right? But my daughter still has her own issues, like her own choices, right?
Right.
So like you can't compel somebody, and that's I'm just not. I'm not comfortable with that.
Right. No, I'm
right?
saying that like I think sometimes people if you're pro-choice, people characterize you as like every time somebody gets pregnant, you bring them to the clinic. Like that's not exactly what happens.
No, it's not at all
Right.
like
But
that.
that's how Fox News would have you.
That's how
believe.
Fox News.
That's how you would frame it,
Right.
and that's wrong.
Yeah, it says it's framed, and I was talking about the mass media stuff. Is
Using it as
to make it
birth
simplified, we approach it as, or we're painted pro-choice is painted as pro-abortion.
Right.
All right.
Thank you.
I'm not pushing abortion. People should just have the freedom to make these choices themselves.
There are 8 billion people on the planet right now, though.
So,
They crossed the line and went there.
8 billion
8
people.
billion people. Like we hit the 8 billion mark. It's ridiculous.
you are watching The Inside View with Teddy Panos. I'm Teddy Panos, joined by the Pod Squad, Jack Mitchell, Mikaela Hondros-McCarthy, Mike Bacigalupo from the left to your right of your computer screen, cell phone, or TV monitor. By the way, Mikaela, you put us on election night. You put us on your big screen TV, and
I did.
And you
I had
sent
the YouTube.
photo on.
Yeah.
There was one other listener said he did the same thing. Put it on the TV and enjoyed the.
It was
enjoyed the
cool.
coverage immensely.
Very cool.
I did the same thing.
You put it on the TV too.
Yeah.
See that? The wonders of YouTube and,
Yeah, it was
and
pretty
modern
cool.
technology.
Works out good.
You were at City Hall for the finance subcommittee meeting.
I mean, I wanted in. I wanted to catch a couple of people and say hi. I saw that they had a finance subcommittee going, which, even if no one's paying attention, I think that it's good that because that's the city council or the subcommittee, they went through the paces with the CFO and the auditor. There's a record of it, right? You talk about putting people on the record. So that stuff is on the record. What happens from that? I'm not really sure. The council, sometimes who believes in representative democracy? I do. So, we have very astute people on the subcommittee. I mean, I know Councilor Robinson has expressed his desire to learn about finances, but not necessarily that's his strongest suit. But Gitzier knows his way around, and so does Scott, right? So we're in good hands there. There's I think there was an issue I talked to you earlier about set up was there was a moment in a council meeting 2 council meetings ago where we were talking about and you made a joke about this, about the flooded basement, right? The insurance policy, and the city is self-insured for certain kinds of things, but otherwise they have insurance policies. I think Councilor Gitzier had brought up the skyrocketing costs of premiums, and the CFO in answering that, I'm not even sure. I don't think Councilor Gitzier was really satisfied with some of the answers, but at one point, the CFO remarked that maintenance is a big, so one of the things that drives our premiums. And so that's maintenance, deferred maintenance, which you made another joke about.
Patch kept trying to get us to this topic. We just didn't listen.
Well, you know, we sort of have our pre-recording talk, right? And it gives I can see the gears turning in Patch's head. Like, I can make a joke about that. And then, so that, you know, that the deferred maintenance or not doing maintenance impacts us negatively. So that when folks want to kick the can down the road, like, let's not fix that roof, or let's not replace that boiler, because they don't want to show the numbers to the taxpayers. Not only does that replacing that gear just get kicked down the road, but there's also other costs that aren't necessarily common sense sort of associated to the cost of kicking the can. There's other costs associated to it. So I'm glad to see that the council is focused on trying to get real numbers on the cost of these things. So I see good work.
I love that.
I think one thing we talked about was I think we should consider doing kind of a report card on the council towards the end of the year. And,
Midterm grades, the first year in.
Yeah. And then we talk maybe about the pros and cons of each individual council, maybe the council, how they operate as individuals, how they operate as a body. We can talk about, you know, we've had, we give the manager a break because he kind of came in, right? But he came in the spring. So, you know, I think we can look at that. And then if anybody knows anything about the school committee,
In the interest of having like constructive, like not trying to put anyone down or anything like that, but like
What?
constructive.
Wait.
Wait.
Patch and I aren't signing on to that.
It's a hard job. I can't imagine, like, as a person in a job, having all these people consistently looking over my shoulder, as, you know, people do.
that's the job, though.
Yeah, that's why.
It is the job, but in the interest of being, you know, because like I complain about stuff all the time, but it's more in the interest of like, let's try to make things better.
I think we should do superlatives. I'd love to hear, like,
You're big on that always.
Like
Oh,
the
yeah.
class clown.
well, just and I'd love to hear from the viewer or viewers, just what kind of awards they want to give out, who they think is
Yeah,
doing
that'd be
what.
good. That'd be
Yeah, I
cool.
definitely want some feedback on this.
Oh, from like high school, who's the class clown?
Yeah,
Most likely to succeed.
most likely to bundle.
Most improved.
Yeah. Most improved would be
Most
good.
improved.
Least likely to know what's going on.
Yeah.
Let's mark that down. End of the show before the end of the year.
I love
Most
district
likely to
representation.
bundle their emotions.
I love it.
Not everybody does.
But look at, they wouldn't be able to, the fact that they're able to push some of this stuff, it wouldn't
Optimistic,
happen.
most
Wouldn't happen
optimistic.
before.
So I'm a diehard district representation person. I mean, I have conversations off to the side, like, should we really have gone to, say, 3 districts or 4 districts? Say we have 8 now, right? Say
We need
take 2
9,
and
1 for
combine
Christian
them, and then that way you'd have 2 seats per district. That might encourage 3 or 4 or 5 candidates to run for.
That'd be even better.
Right?
I'd be up for that.
We kind of played around with that 3 and 3 thing when I like 11 councilors myself. I think that expansion is a good number, but there was this idea of going, you know, with multiple people, because I'm not a what do you call that, ranked choice guy.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm just not.
Rank choice stealing.
Right. And so, but having 2 candidates run or seated in a district encourages, you know, multiple people. There are those that are afraid of ward bosses, that are afraid that we're not going to get
You'll
people
never
to
have someone run
challenge,
against,
right?
yeah.
And, you know, whatever. If there's 8 districts out there, there's 3 at large. There's some district councilors that are going to be very hard to move. There's going to be some there that are going to not be. They're going to be less hard to move.
We talked about this. Was it with you guys or with I can't remember now with Ace and stuff, but I don't see a single counselor who's really in any jeopardy in the district races if they all choose to run
But I
for
think they're all
re-election.
doing a pretty good job. I mean, I
Yeah.
think that I can't say we have. I think I love the city council.
They're
right
act-
now.
they're
fighting for
active.
their districts. That's the
That's the
whole point of
objective,
the
right?
change.
They're
And if
active
someone
and,
wasn't doing a great job, then they might have some problems.
and they're not all doing the same. Like there's not little cliques. Like they seem to be working well together. They cross over on different issues. I mean, you really couldn't ask for it to work out.
Give it time. Election season next year.
No, I
you
know.
may start to see some of those fissures develop
But
there.
if somebody did like, let's say somebody starts to suck, right? It's not going to be that. It's going to be hard to unseat them, but you're only doing it in one district. Like some of these people only got voted in by like I don't know, I don't know who the lowest, like
400 votes in the acre, I think, was
yeah, like
Paul Ratayem, Dave Willett, like 400 to 300 or something like that, if I'm not.
so I
So it was that area where the low propensity. You're going to get more voters in Belvedere, Upper Highlands, Pawtuckaville, and the high part of
down-
Centerville.
yeah.
The part you got to go like this to see.
Christian Hill. But I think it is going to be hard to move some people, but I think it's a lot easier than what it was to to move a district person. Like
The
it's all you could do it.
The question
Yeah.
is, there are two majority districts, right? One is the acre, and then the other is
Lower Highlands.
Lower Highlands, right? And when they split them up, there's a Hispanic, the Hispanic and Southeast or Asian factions were the two demographics they looked at, right? That had high enough numbers to qualify for the lawsuit. So in one of them, I think it's the Lower Highlands, there's a clear majority of Asian voters in comparison to Latino voters, right?
Mhm.
But in the acre one, it's still a majority Asian, but it's a much closer Latino population, right? The Latino vote is really untapped in the city elections. There's a lot of Latino vote in state, but even more so in federal elections, right? Now that might be because they don't get. If you're watching Telemundo or watching a foreign language television show, you're more likely to hear how the president of the United States did this or did that on your television versus
So
what did the counselor and the little spat between the two counselors, right? I usually just say names, but like when we're talking, you understand I'm just using them as sort of space fillers. Here, I'm like, I don't want to talk about, this one and that one because people go, well, it's
Bring it out. Shane.
but it's not true. If I just say Vesna against John Drinkwater, there's no beef between them, right? But if I was getting into a nuanced thing, you people in the know would kind of know what I was trying to set up by using them as icons, right? But the audience might not necessarily know, so they think there's like a real beef between Vesna and Drinkwater.
You think our audience is stupid, don't you?
No. Because I think about 10 people watch this,
They're all highly informed.
Yes.
and they're junkies for inside information.
One issue I wanted to kind of get your guys' thoughts on, your folks' thoughts on. We broke the news last night that Dave Keene, long time, in his 27th year now with the Lowell Fire Department, could kind of put in that second in command spot. What you call deputy chief, assistant to the chief. I think the technical term is assistant to the chief, but he's basically number two there
For the
in the fire department.
Yeah.
Is he the assistant chief or the assistant to the chief?
It's kind of like Droid Schrute, as
Yeah,
one of my friends pointed out last night. Can you be clear on the
Yeah.
assistant to the regional
Yes.
manager? But in going back to arguably one of the most exciting things in the last couple of city council meetings, there's been some battling and a lot of discussions and a lot of it going on behind the scenes about the fire department overtime budget and how that's affecting the city budget and how there's
Are they going over budget and their overtime budget?
it's constantly over budget. There's some Eric Councilor Gitcher has mentioned it, well, it's not being budgeted properly, but there are other issues under the surface regarding overtime and which is causing it. And it strikes me as a, I don't know how in tune you guys are to this stuff, but I think that was a brilliant move by either the fire chief or by the city manager, whoever makes that appointment. And I think technically the fire chief does, Philip Sharon or Sharon. I keep butchering his name as well, but I'm sure there was input from the city manager in that as well. And putting Keene, who's well liked politically, well respected in the fire department, he was the union head for 12 years. I think he was a union head in Lowell for 12 years. Finished that up in December of 2015, and now he's moved on to the regional district fire unions as well. So you put a union guy in a position where at some point someone's going to have to take a hard line against some of these potential abuses of overtime for the good of the city. I think that was whoever, whether it was the fire chief, the city manager, or both together, I think it was a brilliant move tactically.
So it's abuses of overtime. So it's not like correlate. It's like there aren't like more fires or whatever.
Abuse, that's the fine line, right? I mean, somebody's sick.
Or it could be a coordinated.
Somebody's sick. But if you're constantly sick at a time where your buddy's going to be able to get overtime to fill in your sickness shift, and then vice versa.
Yeah.
It to me, that's abuse. It's because it's taxpayers' money.
You can have an audit of that.
We can say, well,
you can audit that.
Well, as any employer will tell you, prove that your employee isn't sick, especially in this day and age of COVID and
yeah. I mean, so COVID could be a real reason, like a legitimate reason for
2 years
overtime.
ago.
Well, I think people getting COVID now still, so you don't know. But like, you can have you can investigate. Like, are the same people calling out and the same people filling in on a regular basis? Like, you could totally audit that.
Well,
Chad's looking at me
What?
like he doesn't want to get into this conversation.
So I would caution though that
Smoke, not to use a pun, but if there's smoke, there's fire. You get that one?
Wait a second.
there you go. Well,
Or not. It could be not.
It could be a coordinated effort possibly to raise some awareness of a department that's possibly understaffed.
Right.
I mean, the best way to cut overtime costs is to be
Hire
fully
more
staffed. I mean, are they fully staffed? I don't know.
Well, we know they've had brownouts. There was
Yeah.
Actually, we haven't had that discussion in a while.
I think they've
Come
resolved
to
that.
think of it, yeah.
The council was pretty clear that they wanted no brownouts.
And there shouldn't be. I mean, but are they? Again, I don't know the numbers, but I know the police department's understaffed right now, even though I think they're overstaffed. But I know that they have open positions. I don't know how many the fire department has, but I mean, this couldn't just be like people are being greedy. It could be trying to send a signal and say, hey, we need more guys. I don't know. I really don't know.
Their regular personnel budget would be under budget, and then their overtime budget would be.
Well, I don't know if they were
so
looking at it.
might
Are they
add
looking at the whole budget? Or are they just looking at the overtime budget? So
I love these finance questions.
There was a motion. I'm pretty sure it was Councilor Noon. I think it happened within the last two, not tonight, but within the last two, that was asking for some digging into why there was so much overtime.
Mhm.
All right. So, and the council supported that motion. It wasn't like there was any sort of division. So, I think there's, the council is sort of saying, we're not going to use words like corruption. I didn't hear anything like that on the council floor. All right.
It may not even be improper or illegal. I mean, if the system is set up a certain way, you get certain sick days,
Totally.
certain personal
It
days,
could be
whatever.
completely legitimate.
You're kind of dumb not to take.
yeah, use it or lose it, man.
you think about it.
100%.
When you
Absolutely.
allow folks to sort of dwell on how to maximize the efficiency of a thing, right? Managers generally try to figure out how to minimize labor costs, right? Whereas labor tries to figure out how to maximize labor costs.
Well-
it's a tug of war between the two sides. I never blame labor. I always sort of, if they're finagling it, they're finagling it with the rules that they have.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
if you're playing within the rules. But that's where good government
They gotta look at it.
realizes where the loopholes are and closes them, or tries to
They should be looking at it.
tries
That's
to
actually a very
minimize
good
them. That's
framing.
that's the job of government. I think that's part of kind of what Councilor Gitcher has been getting to through a lot of this. Like, we haven't been doing a lot.
I'm glad he
Well,
asked.
are
I'm
they
glad he
paying
asked
them
these
enough in the
questions.
first place? Like, why are they getting paid enough in the first place? Is there a reason?
Firefighters.
Yeah, is there a reason why they have
What's-
to finagle?
Well, they-
Or
What's
if there's
enough?
finagling going on.
We talk about kicking the
You
kicking
know?
the can though. Like this fire department's been underfunded. The
Yeah.
equipment's been old. Like it's one of those things that never really, because they gamble with it, right? It's as long as it's not a big fire, nobody cares. They've always been underfunded. I remember seeing the chiefs years ago asking for money from CDBG for engines and stuff, and they never got it. Like it's always been, kick the can down the road and hopefully the city doesn't burn. I think it's
Literally.
yeah. I mean, I'm glad that it seems they're paying a little more attention to it now. But
Which brings us to our final topic here. And Mikaela, this one is for you. I've circled it here on my little notepad. See that? Show prep notepad.
oh, look at that. There's like
Can you
eight.
see?
There's like 8 words
The
on there.
trees?
The trees
The
right there.
trees.
Trees. Circle. You went on one of your nature walks
A nature walk that I love.
along the Merrimack River.
Yep, I start behind the Franco
and
School,
you lost
and I
your
go all
mind.
the way. I go all the way. Well, yeah, I mean, well, this was brought up
A
in a.
blue top stroll.
So this is a conservation committee meeting that happened where it was brought up that there were a ton of trees beheaded, not pruned, not trimmed in a way that would help them keep growing.
But you
But-
weren't fired up after the conservation committee meeting. You got fired up when you actually went on your walk and saw the trees for
Well, yeah.
yourself.
Yeah, and then I was happy that it got brought up in that meeting. I mean, that's if it hadn't gotten brought up in that meeting, I don't know where it would have. So basically, the city responded to a call from someone saying, "Cut down these trees so we can see the bridge, the lighting of the new lights that had gone up over the bridge."
Oh,
It's
Right?
pretty full.
It is a beautiful sight, but these are trees that these are the only trees that are on the river between a very like short, very like not very wide length of land separating the river and the river walk, that beautiful newly constructed
wait, was it
river
the ones
walk.
by the Aiken Street Bridge?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. So, yeah, those trees are all, and it starts at the beginning of a building, a residential building on the river, and it ends where the building ends. So, an arborist was not consulted.
you got the picture? Let me see.
Jack
I don't
has
know
called
how-
up the picture on
Yeah,
his
an
I don't
arborist.
know how you can do that.
I don't know how you can cut trees on the,
And another thing is, we text to each other too much.
Yeah.
I was losing feeling in my finger scrolling back to find those photos.
Wow.
I know we do. Yeah, our group text is kind of crazy.
So do
But
they?
the city needs trees are important in a city. It's resilient. Like
Just
we
not
talk
on the
about flooding.
sidewalks, please.
We were talking
They actually
about resiliency planning, insurance costs,
Heat
things like
islands.
the heat islands, all that stuff. Like that feeds into these costs that the city spends on insurance and like our bond rating and things like that. Like if we don't have someone on staff, even if it's a full-time arborist for the city, that's ideal, right? But if you don't have a consultant or a process in place where, hey, these are important trees on the river, and you're not calling someone like, hey,
Why do they cut them
can
all the
we
way
not?
down?
You had these.
If you're gonna kill a tree, you might as well cut it down all the way.
Viewpoint. Someone just went over the thing and just.
Well, I will say this:
That's not how you do.
the last time I was down there in the fall, and there's a lot of cedar waxwings, which are a nice bird that lives around here year round, and then there are migratory birds that live in there too. So those things are homeless, and now all those you can still see those birds, but they're living in a blue top birdhouse under the bridge.
Any truth to the rumor that the school department has actually put out a job opening for an arborist?
The school department.
Chief
Yeah,
arborist.
Chief arborist for the school department. Teach the kids about trees.
Yeah, that's a good position. That's at least worth $120,000. They're going to
This is
use.
true. This is not true.
Yeah, it's a direct report to Joel Boyd. It's
It's
gonna.
not true.
Oh,
yet.
okay, because the administration. Well, yeah,
It's
cut
not
one of the
yet, but give it a little time. It might.
cut one of the admin positions and hire an arborist. I mean, geez, really.
They should have an arborist.
No, just why
Why
cut
don't
one of
we
the
have
admin positions?
Why
would you cut one of the admin positions? Just hire the chief arborist.
Yes.
Yeah. What? Don't cut. Come on. What kind of government person
So
are you?
instead of like,
Cut.
yeah.
What's with all that? It's the billionaires tax is going to find the chief,
Yeah.
the chief arborist.
However we get an arborist, I don't care.
And
Make it
that's
happen.
and this is how government could do it, right? And I'm surprised they haven't thought of it yet, but they promised the millionaires tax was going towards transportation and schools. Just hire a chief arborist
Yeah.
for the school department, and it's education money.
As long-
It's for the kids.
As long as it's part of their job for the city before they hack off a bunch of trees on the river to contact the chief arborist for the school department, then I'm okay with
There
it.
is a problem though.
They need responsibility and they need like,
I think if you're going to have a chief arborist from the school department work in this area, they need to be familiar with the trees that are in this area. I don't think the trees in New Mexico are the same.
things like cacti.
Cacti will do great.
You stayed, other than pulling up the photo, you stayed eerily silent. Jack, you want to add anything before we say goodnight?
There's a lot of scrub trees down there, like that sumac and stuff. It's
Yeah, some of that you
garbage,
gotta get rid
right?
of.
And I struggle because I think we really should do an effort on our waterfront, right? I know that there's been vast improvements on the Centerville side, but there's just a bunch of garbage growing down there. But I understand, like, if you were to take down trees, you've got to preserve maybe you'd have to put in riprap or some sort of way to something, because you have to have, erosion control, right?
Roots.
But that's the way we're doing it now.
Yeah.
There's other engineering solutions to that, but they're all costly. So
Are
right
they?
now,
Because I think you're kind of going somewhere where I think I'm in tune to you. Like, yeah, trees are nice. We all love trees. But, you plant 1 million of them when they're baby trees. Sure, they're not intrusive.
Well, an
Then they
arborist,
grow, and, you suddenly have the workers' water fountain over there on Shattuck Street that I've looked at every day for 47 years. Those trees are now 30 years old. They've ruined all the bricks. You put them on put a tree in downtown.
there are trees that you can plant.
Wonderful. What happens when the roots grow in your sidewalk?
Because
now?
nobody asked an arborist.
Well, an arborist would know what kind of trees you
That's
can
right.
plant.
You're
That's
right.
the whole point.
Yeah.
that type of what you're talking about is, like, I call that root heave, right? Different types of plants.
Is that the name of the band on your shirt? Root Heave? That'd be a great band name. Root Heave. Woo!
I can't wait till our inside Lowell shirts come in so we can all look as cool as Jack, because he's
Are
definitely.
they gonna be? Are they gonna be this cool?
Well, if we can get somebody to respond
I
to my
think
email.
I couldn't even do the band.
I think
Mikaela.
You
I'm
need
gonna-
an anime character. We
Oh,
all need
man.
anime characters.
is an anime
We all-
character.
Yeah, we all need a yeah.
I don't want to wear boring shirts to work, right? You know what I'm saying? I'm doing this in part because I'm hoping people will donate shirts to me, right?
Send them to
Okay, yeah.
Inside Lowell, 100 American.
I will wear your shirt.
Suite 410. Send a
Nice.
shirt for Jack Mitchell. He will wear it as part of the Pod Squad.
2XL. But right now you're just getting you're getting to learn a little bit about the kind of music that I like, because I've been wearing my concert t-shirts, so.
So trees, are we in agreement here? We got to be smart about planting them. We can't just plant them willy-nilly.
You really do need an arborist. I'm with you on the arborist.
The trees along the river are garbage trees.
Why do you need an arborist?
Because
Because there's certain trees you can plant in certain places.
And you can't Google search it?
Not really.
You can't have like
Well, you gotta-
the
you gotta-
neighborhood
Oh, I'm
service
sorry.
coordinator or whatever.
I can't Google search how to run a Greek restaurant in Lowell. How insulting is that?
It's not that difficult to
I
Google
mean, for
search how to
God's
run a
sake,
restaurant.
experience.
It's not
I
that
can Google search how to do
Can't we
someone's
use the
profession.
university?
Just have your sister do all the work.
The university is
That's a
big on
great-
environmental.
that's a great
Somebody
idea.
reach out to a UMass Lowell professor, give him a
Great
$1,000
idea.
grant or whatever, and figure out what kind of trees you shouldn't
Put
plant.
some effort.
on your
Hey, here's
sidewalk.
what,
Sumac is a
not to
problem.
do. Here's what not to do. When you get a call saying, "Hey, cut down all these trees on riverfront that are like holding the river together," you don't whack them all off. That's not what not to do.
I don't really, not to shit on your thing here, right?
That's
but
fine.
that river isn't going to collapse because those trees got decapitated.
I think there is some flood
Well, no, they could
mitigation from
die.
trees.
I agree with you in principle. This is a glaring thing.
Yeah.
It should be addressed. All right. But I think it'll be fine. There's not going to be a catastrophe.
So if those
in that
trees
phase.
die,
Well, they're dead now. They're already
No,
dead.
I mean, I think
Well, no, they-
depending upon the
they
kind
could
of
be
tree, they'll just keep growing. They'll just be okay.
no, if there's not a leader for the other, like, you can't.
You're an arborist.
I know like enough that you're not supposed to behead a tree.
Those are garbage trees. They grow. They're there because they're like
They're not
grow
all
like
sumac.
weeds.
They're not all sumac. Some of them
Right,
are.
we're gonna keep this discussion going. You're wrong.
Mikaela is not an arborist, but she has hugged a tree in her life.
I have.
I know you hate nature. You just pave.
I don't hate nature.
Oh my God,
I
you
hate
hate
the
it.
stupidity. We keep doing this. We're planting
tree's gonna save
trees
your life one
on
day.
sidewalk. Every
Just
time
know
they
it.
build a new sidewalk,
You can plant a tree that doesn't walk over the sidewalk, though.
How much money have they put into the Big Phil, the Lord Overpass? And they're out there, they're planting trees. They created all these sidewalks so
I hope
that the
they had
Lord
arborists
Overpass could be
decide what trees.
walkable because, the people coming from the lower highlands into downtown, it's going to be like, the migration Moses bringing the Jews across. They're all, suddenly they built this monstrosity and everyone from the lower
God
highlands is
forbid
going to
we
come
have
into
a-
downtown. But they're planting trees where they spent, what was it, $23 million? We don't even know what the final number is really going to be, but they're putting trees in these $23 million sidewalks and roadways. And I'm telling you, in 25 years, my son is going to be laughing at people because those trees have ruined these sidewalks.
Well,
and probably
Have
the
you ever
roads,
been in
too.
a big city with huge, beautiful trees lining like Europe has them everywhere? Like, that's good planning. That's good city planning.
Yeah, but-
It
This is one
provides-
of the things I hate about you the most. You just went
I'm right?
off. No, because you just speculated wildly, right, about all these things from the cost to what the final like you projected.
The big bill was $23
You
million,
projected
I
that
think.
your son was going to see heaved like you don't have any idea. You're just going. This is what in my gut. This is what I think, right? When you really all you care about is trying to get as many asses from the Lowell connector to the Athenian corner,
Thank you. They're ringing that bell.
and you don't give a shit about trees. You just want
Yeah,
a shuttle. If they could put a runway down the middle of this and
No, he doesn't like public transportation.
I loved it. I grew up on a dead end street in Drake, and we used to walk through the trails, and we loved it. Of course, they tore half of it down to build houses, but there's no more forest at the Lord Overpass. That's been
idea-
a cement jungle for the
idea
last 50, 60 years.
is-
Now we're going to put trees there while we've expanded the roads.
Well, you need
It's called
shade for the
progress.
panhandlers.
Yeah, exactly. The poor panhandlers.
I mean, you're not wrong, but that's a total dick thing to say. Right? Like, there's literally like the Little Cambodia neighborhood is segregated, like the Merrimack River running through it.
Why?
An asphalt river, right? From the area that's got the courthouse now, right?
How is it
And so
segregated?
it's because it's treacherous.
Why does it
It is not. It's going to be more treacherous now, crossing 27 lanes of
They
vehicles.
should have built a pedestrian bridge. That would have been cooler.
Oh my God.
I do have
We're
a
not gonna
question
end
though.
this in-
Is this the first winter that this thing has been somewhat complete?
Yeah.
Because what I'm worried
Because
about.
the snowplows are gonna take out all those embankments.
Well, no, but I'm worried, like, so they built that thing. They didn't remove. They just filled it in. Like, I hope that thing's not going to. I mean, you
think
oversee.
I
it-
have no comment whatsoever.
I'm
on
I'm
the
like, is
construction
this
of
going to
that
settle and just?
from a because it's related to what I do for a living, and it
Is it
will,
safe?
my phone will. The planning, I will say, it. I don't mean to. I'm not trying to sidestep that. Don't ask me questions that are related.
Did they use the same fill that they used in the Big Dig?
I'm not talking about it.
They took.
From a city planning perspective, the connection of the two neighborhoods, we're better off. That was the logic behind it,
Oh, yeah.
and I concur with it.
I
You
can't
don't-
wait to see all the
Jeff
Southeast
Beck-
Asians flooding into the transitional living center neighborhood when they could stay in their own neighborhood.
Jeff
You know-
Beck would be
And
so
shop in
happy
their
with
own
this.
shoes.
All
You know
right.
what? You know what I just thought of though? I noticed that when they were filling the big fill, The PCP pile on the VFW disappeared.
What PCP?
There was a big pile of dirt that kept the VFW construction project from ever getting done. It kind of disappeared. I don't know if that really happened.
It's a shame they started this project before the high school.
Oh, yeah, they could have put all the asbestos in there. It could have been Lowell's time capsule.
Forever.
No, they would have put a condo on top of that.
Oh, yeah.
Funny, not funny, right?
No, that's terrible.
So you're not going to opine on the
Honestly,
big bill.
but that's why I worry about things settling like that, because I know what happened down there. You talking about the one at the on Willard
So in
Street?
controlled construction, there are ways to do that, like to prevent that, right? In a general scheme of things. But I know nothing about that project.
Do they
I just know-
use those ways?
You don't know. He said, I don't know.
He's just
Do
fucking
you
with me
really
right
not
now.
know?
Subcontractor.
Oh no,
Really not
I
know.
literally. I mean, So these things are standardized things, right? Like I was talking about elections, and I said each state doesn't build a bridge the way they feel like it, right? Like we don't allow state engineer to decide how to build a bridge. There's federal standards to this, right? Because we watched bridges fall in the 50s and 60s because we didn't have federal standard. It's not just the money. The money comes with building in accordance to these standards. All right.
Where do the bike lanes play a path? Because you have to have
There's,
bike
all
lanes to
that
get
stuff
federal
is actually,
money
if
through.
you want to look up walkable cities and shit like that.
Oh, I know.
All right.
Multimodal.
Yeah. All
transportation
that is all
smart
online.
streets that have bigger-
Multimodal sounds like an affliction. Oh,
We're-
get the
we're-
multimodals.
I can't wait. I cannot wait until they're done with this thing and people realize there's just a giant lane going down the center of that thing that's going to have 5 buses every hour going through it.
Carrying asses
and maybe,
down to the Athenian corner.
and maybe
I
one,
hope it has full
maybe
buses.
one bicyclist. All this land.
We can use
They
that lane.
expanded those roads,
You're
and
gonna
they've
be
got
wrong.
all this land.
You're wrong.
Look, you can see it. It's taken form now. Right down the center, there will be 5 buses an hour using it max, and maybe 2 to 3 bicyclists.
You're wrong.
Wait,
Mark my word.
I can use that. Who's going to stop me? Can't you just drive through it?
No.
Well, you know that's what's going to start happening. Just like
No.
people started riding the ridiculous bike lane down Father
Actually-
Lawrence.
Oh, because
Oh, yeah, I
it's
do that all the
never-
time.
it's never
Start going down the center. The dirt
don't
bikers
think
now
they
have a
say-
clear path.
Oh, they're going to be going fast.
Yeah, they can fly into downtown.
dirt
now.
bike
so
rally.
much right now for talking about this because I can't. I'm not saying anything.
We get from trees.
Let's
to the
save
big
this.
hill.
This is why you have to be part of this, because we wouldn't be able to this is why you have to be on the pod squad.
We're going to
We
have to
wouldn't-
shift our
No one
pod
else
squad
would say
recordings
these
to a different
crazy
night
things.
and a later night.
Yeah, no one else would say these.
Yeah, the 3 of us are too
asinine-
polite.
Yeah.
I don't know. After the last 7 minutes or so, I'm thinking Hans is a much better choice.
I'm going to make you give me up
No,
as a
but-
member of the pod squad after all. The pod squad, Jack Mitchell, Mikaela, Hondros-McCarthy, Mike Bacigalupo. Thanks again, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you for watching The Inside View with Teddy Panos and the Pod Squad. Check us out online, InsideLowell.com. Check us out on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. We've got a YouTube channel. We've got a ton of sponsors. Let me thank them all one more time. Spectacle Live, the Greater Lowell Chamber of Commerce, IBEW 2321, Real Estate Ray Booten, Lowell Lock and Key, Stellar Web Studios, the Mill City Festival Fund, bringing you the City of Lights 2022 on Saturday, November 26th. Inside Lowell is going to stream it live for you on your computers, on your TVs, or on your phones. So, Batch, you'll be able to, since you never make it to the reviewing stand, you can hang out by the old Cord
I'm gonna make it there this
or
year.
Fuse Bistro and just watch it on your phone.
I'm going to make it.
There you go.
I will be
All
there
right.
this year.
So thank you to the Mill City Festival Fund, Phil Tebow Architect, Unitas Community Center, the Merrimack Valley Wi-Fi Pros, and our newest sponsors, the Stones Hospitality Group and Christopher's Towing. Till next time, everybody, be well.